So we'll just start with just asking how did you start practicing yoga, and how did you become a teacher? Was that like a decision, or was it just a natural thing that happened? There's a bell. Church, it's Sunday.
So yoga, I kind of inherited the practice of yoga from family, from parents, and they were much more interested in meditation than, say, the asana practice. So I think that the notion of having a practice of some sort, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a qigong practice or it's a tai chi practice or it's a music practice, that was just a given.
Okay.
You know, it's something quite normal.
Yeah.
And the kind of interest in yoga asana came more from my interest in dance. And I think that's very common because we, as children, we get introduced, say, to ballet and jazz ballet, and you know these very regular things. You go to karate classes, or you in your little communities there will be a kind of a creative type of physical sport of some sort, and so dance was mine, and a bit of theatre, and so I was very interested in mime and physical kind of theatre.
Okay.
And so through interest in dance and then mime and then a little bit of like maybe I wanted to work in circus, maybe do some street theatre, and I did a little bit of street theatre. The addition to Ashtanga yoga practice was good body training.
Okay.
So I came to it
in
a
from the body side.
Really, really very pragmatic approach.
Okay.
I wanted to stay really at peak strength. And I learned the Ashtanga series when I was in my late teens, and then it was quite an early introduction, I suppose. And I went to Bali straight after high school and went into a community that at the time, can you believe it, Ubud had one yoga teacher in 1996.
Wow.
And the situation that I was in, I was with my boyfriend and we were living there, and I was teaching a bit of theatre for kids with Janet Denif's little international kind of activities centre.
Wow.
With all the kids that were there. And so, you know, theatre and dance then brought me into wanting to just have something that I did every day to maintain it. And I met Graham Northfield, who was at the time my brother-in-law through my boyfriend.
Okay.
So he taught me primary series, and he had a quality that was different. Very, he's very still. I don't know him very well, and that you know, I only just kind of met him during those years.
Okay.
He's very still, very humble. And that quality of stillness, and I'm a kind of a maniac. I'm very expressive, I'm theatrical, I'm a natural kind of extrovert. And this stillness really attracted me. I wondered how it felt to be so still. I was, I'm curious about that stillness. It seems very peaceful. It seems not like searching all the time. And I'm a naturally curious person, and I'm searching like a maniac for things.
Which can be quite straining, stressful.
Well, if it comes naturally, if it comes naturally, it's kind of fulfilling. You search and find, but it's just ceaseless. It just never ends.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess that the attraction to yoga is that you arrive. There's an arrival point. You arrive. There's a point at which you don't have to do anything else right now.
Yeah.
That for me is so soothing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps bringing me back to practice.
Yeah.
Whether I'm doing it every day or whether I miss a week or something, I'm like, okay, something's missing. It's like, it's that place of just being
it's enough.
able to just do that, and that's it, and forget everything else.
Yeah, that's very special. And I think we're very lucky to have been invited into the teachings of that and the method of that. And I think that sometimes we forget what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, and how it is that yoga is functioning in our lives. I think we get a little bit distracted by the kind of asanas, the floating around and the physical strength. And even though I came to the practice with a very pragmatic approach,
from the physical side,
it seems to have taken me way into a place that I never imagined was there. It's taken me more into meditation. And so it took it took my life. It took, in the last 12 years, it's pretty much all I've done. And it's taken my entire attention. And now this is all I do, and I travel and teach. And
so how long have you been teaching now?
well, I taught at university, but I wasn't very good. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just teaching flexibility and strength-based training, really.
So how long do you kind of identify as, okay, this is what I do, I'm a yoga teacher?
Maybe since about 2002, I've probably been more focused, getting my drishti, my attention into the mode of practicing and teaching as my main focus. But
that's a long time, 14 years.
Yeah. And the last 10 years have been traveling and teaching.
Okay.
And so I've been...
And how did that... I'm really interested, because I write a lot about traveling and on Global Yoga, and I'm interested in how that happens for people, whether it's a conscious choice of, okay, I love to travel, I'm going to combine these two things, or whether it's just a process, a natural flow in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm traveling, I'm going to start teaching yoga.
Yeah, I think I had an intent. I think perhaps that when I first went to Bali, that I was really quite young, and I was very impressed with people who were living permanently as expats or living in kind of these quite intentional and very mindful communities. Yeah. And there's, of course, Bali, this is an old community. Buddhism has been attracting people for a long time. And I've spent no time in Ubud recently. I've not been there. I've been in India a lot and Europe a lot. And but the idea of living away from Australia, living in communities that have really chosen to be where they are.
And to focus on something like self-development, which is very much a focus in Ubud at the moment. Yeah. Maybe it was also.
Yeah, it was already there. Yeah. And so that impresses upon us, like I could really choose to live and be surrounded by people like the Sangha, but maybe not in a monastic Sangha, but in a kind of more free-flowing communal way, and that transience, this kind of like communities have a pulse. These global yoga communities really have a cycle and a pulse, and I go to Mysore every year, and it's got its own pulse. It's a seasonal thing. We all meet there, we practice together, and then we won't see each other for the rest of the year.
It's like a nomad community, really.
But I think it's a very, I seem to have the same year over and over. It's like Groundhog Year. And I go from my 8 months of teaching in Europe, and I go to Portugal, to Spain, to Italy, to the UK, and then I go to India, and then I go a little bit for Australia. So this cycle has, for the last 10 years now, become a norm.
Your regular flow.
It's my norm. Yeah.
So how did all those gigs
Well, how did it happen?
Work out for you?
Well, I think if you intend something and you like the feeling of it, and you go by intuition, and it's all by luck and chance, really. I mean, meeting the right people.
So a lot of them you would have met in Mysore.
Yeah, I mean, my first travels to India were to Kerala, Mysore. I went up to Dharamsala and Rishikesh. So I did a 6-month kind of, tour of India, of the yoga tourism of India, and studied Ayurveda and studied Ashtanga and studied meditation up in Dharamsala, studied Buddhism, and I think that just kind of whet an appetite that has always been with me, perhaps inherited from my parents. But then met a load of people, and I've known those people ever since, and that was 2004. So that was now it's become my community. Yeah, and I'm amazed.
And you sort of feel you help each other.
Yeah, we're all in it together, and I'm amazed at how with the introduction of, say, Facebook and social media, I'm able to maintain relationships that are much deeper and closer than I would if I had stayed in Melbourne and lived in the city. I'm sure that those relationships have had the stress of stretch of time, but I feel like I have a community that I really relate to very intimately, and I won't see them all the time, but I see them every year.
Yeah, at these regular places that you go. Yeah. And so what about some of the challenges of that lifestyle?
Packing.
What about grounding? Do you have some practices that help you ground whenever you arrive in a new place?
Yeah, I think I guess my daily yoga practice is that. And I got very attached to things like I had to have my yoga mat close, and I had a meditation blanket and mala beads, and I have had moments where I've needed those objects much more, and I've lost and found things, and lost them again, and so I seem to now not need much. I don't have much attachment. I don't even have a mat. I mean, I've got a couple of mats. I've got one at my parents' place and one in India. And I've got a few things around the place. Yeah. But I no longer hold on to my mat everywhere I go.
Yeah.
And so it means that sometimes when I'm practicing on the ground, I'm practicing on the grass, I'm practicing on the sand, or I'm practicing on the cement.
So like your home is your yoga practice.
I feel like I live here now. Yeah. And it takes a while to gather the resources, the internal resources for that. But I feel fairly internally resourceful nowadays. And I think that is the fruits of the offering practice. Of the practice.
Yeah. And just in terms of like being, I don't know whether you consider yourself as running a business or being a freelancer, or how do you kind of consider yourself as a yoga teacher?
I work for myself.
Yeah.
I definitely work for myself. I happen to work for several retreats, and so then I'm collaborating. Yeah. And so I collaborate with Kali Yoga retreats, and I teach for them a lot. And so we have a long-standing relationship as well. This is my 8th year. Yeah, I'm at Kali Yoga Italy at the moment, and so we have seasons. And the seasons will last, up to 5 months. I suppose with Kali Yoga Italy, we have a 5-month season. And so I could teach that whole season, or sometimes I come and go and have a few breaks in between.
So you see yourself as a collaborator with them?
Yeah. And between our good intent to provide very transformative opportunities for guests, for people to come. It's okay. The shared intent that we're at all times trying our best, giving our heartfelt support to people. It feels less and less and less like business. It feels to me I am less and less involved in the business. I feel like I have a 100% commitment.
So you don't really identify with.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not running a business. I feel I am involved in business. It has a business. Yoga retreats are businesses. But for my...
your Dharma is...
Yeah, my experience, I feel totally committed to the teaching. I feel totally comfortable with and how I teach. And the involvement with guests is less client-based and more people on earth. Here we are together, practicing together. And I think I'm unconfused about my involvement in the nature of the business. I guess I could probably be more independent and work for myself or something like that. But I like to sleep well at night and just go to bed, with a kind of calm peace of mind, and woke up with an optimism. And I think running a business, that might not be the case.
Yeah.
Right. I sleep well at night.
More stressful, probably.
Yeah.
So I know you also have mentees.
I run a mentorship program. Yeah.
And so I'd really love to just hear a bit of advice for beginning yoga teachers in terms of, I guess, finding their way. Like, how do you kind of start getting your first jobs? And any advice?
So I think there's a couple of things that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't have high expectations on how many opportunities there are for teaching. However, just start teaching however you can. Start teaching your family, start teaching your friends, start going to the park and inviting a group of people into the park, because there's lots of jobs, but there are lots of yoga teachers as well. And the critical thing about going, say, to get a 200-hour teacher training, 500-hour teacher training, is that after you have that,
do you think
training,
those are necessary? That's another question.
Well, it's part of it's kind of an industry standard, I suppose. Most of the people who come for the mentorship program have done that 200-hour certificate. And but what I notice is that people don't know what to do next, and there seems to be like this just a little bit of a gap between having trained.
Why I always ask this question.
And working. Yeah. And that gap, I would say, is practice and practice teaching. A lot of self-practice, a lot of discovery, self-inquiry and discovery. Yeah. And so the mentorship program fills that gap. That's what I'm aiming for. And when I was considering, there's this opportunity that we have on retreat, I get this really vast opportunity of lots and lots of different bodies, lots of challenges. I've got to adapt my teaching style to all of the
new people
ideas.
every week.
New people every week. And so there's so much richness in this opportunity for somebody else to come under my wing and join me in that process, because we learn loads. I mean, I've become, I suppose, a very highly skilled, sorry to float my own boat, but highly skilled at meeting students at every level. I feel really skilled because I've had so much exposure. It's so much experience. And so the mentorship is kind of trying to give others some insight as to what that experience, how to get it, what skills are needed, how to build a set of resources. And so, we have a lot of fun on the mentorship program. It's rigorous as well. You live on retreat for a month. Yeah, that's not necessarily easy for everybody.
And do you find any of them perhaps coming and seeing all of that and maybe going, oh, do I really want to be a yoga teacher?
Yeah, I suppose it takes all of the...
so it's a good sort of testing ground, I guess.
Maybe, it takes the glamour out of it. It gives some more grounded experience, and retreats are gorgeous, and it's a wonderful way to spend a week. If you've got, if you're a person who's thinking, well, I've got a week off, go to a yoga retreat. Don't do anything else. It's wonderful. It's like the best investment that you will make is to go on yoga retreat, get to know a little bit of your own biorhythm. Eat healthy food, wake up early. I know that drinking and going partying is wonderful on holiday as well, but, give a bit of both. Give yourself the space for a bit of both. So when we are working on the retreat, the team, it is glorious to live on retreat, but it is it's every week. New groups are coming, and teaching from the beginning every week. So every Sunday, I start from the beginning as though I've never taught before. That challenge, that's
amazing.
Yeah, that is a challenge. And I think that ability to stay fresh comes from a really deep self-practice, because you are fresh, you freshen up. And so the glamour of gloriously lying by the pool and living on yoga retreats, it's actually hard work.
Yeah.
It takes that kind of, that unreasonable, glamorous stuff out. You just actually see the hard work that it is.
For the mentees.
For the mentorship students, yeah.
And your self-practice, you managed to keep that up?
I get up quite early, so I tend to need to sleep well. I really try and get enough rest. So the program that I pretty much maintain, not every day, because I feel like you have to be adaptable.
Yeah, with how you're feeling.
So I generally try to get up at 5, and then I start teaching at 7:30. So I give myself a good amount of time to practice. And if I can
is it different every day your practice? I'm always interested to ask people.
Yeah, my self practice is a couple of times a week. I'll do my second series because I'm an Ashtanga teacher, and I am committed to that practice. But I don't do it every day.
Yeah. That's too much.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to admit
I do the first series, and there was a time when I was doing it every day, and I really did get into it, but not always.
Yeah. And
it's 1.5 hours, 2 hours.
Yeah, and I think I can easily do 1.5 hours, but it might not always be that full practice.
Yeah,
I might get to half, or I'll get to a half primary sometimes. But I've got 4 hours of teaching to do that day, and then the mentorship workshops, and I'm
to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I just don't. I have to honor where my energy is and how my body's feeling, and so I can do very soft versions of everything, and I can maintain a fairly consistent energy and work week after week after week after week, and I one night off, but pretty much the rest is on for the guests, for the mentorship students, and maintaining energy is part of the skill of teaching.
Definitely, and the skill of living, skill of
life. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yoga really teaches you about your own energy and tunes you into where it is and where you're at.
Yeah. We just become more knowledgeable about ourselves. And yoga is a self-inquiry. If that hasn't been made very clearly or been stated very clearly for you, yoga is a self-inquiry. So what other people are doing doesn't matter. Just practice your own truth. And once you get to that, you you can really invest the time, and that it might be 2 hours practice, it might be half an hour practice, but it's not quantitative, it's qualitative.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, just go really deeply. And if it's a bit of breathing work and some meditation, that is a practice. If it's mindful walking, that's a practice. Our whole day is spent somehow. Whatever you do for those 24 hours, that's your practice, that's your life.
Yeah.
And so, I like to dedicate a fair amount of time, a fair whack of my life to practice, that's for sure. I love it, and it's part of me now. I couldn't imagine living any other way. I couldn't imagine having another job.
Well, that was my kind of coming to the end question. Yeah, so do you kind of envisage your future at all, or do you just live in the present, or do you imagine kind of teaching yoga forever?
I think I could do this forever. Yeah, I think that I could probably instruct a Surya Namaskara on my deathbed. I've got it.
You know Taffe Lynch, the 96-year-old yoga teacher? Yeah. I mean, she's 96 and she's teaching like at least one class a week in New York.
I don't think it's got an expiry date. I mean, the expiry date of me is probably the expiry date of my teaching.
That's her.
So,
yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think it's best to just relax. The other advice that I would give, say, new teachers is relax. Enjoy yourself. Relax into your own practice and become, I suppose, independent. Have an independent kind of, you're in a teacher. Listen to advice, but you bring yoga to life. The teachings, the teachers, the guidance and the advice that you get from others is just that. It's like an arrow. It's saying, look at this. But what you are looking at is you. It's not there. Don't get too stuck on other people's advice. You have to bring the yoga to life. It's in you.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me and to Global Yogi readers and audience today. And just for anyone that wants to know more about you, websites.
Yeah, so I have a website, which is my name, tashidawa.com.
And if they're interested in being a mentee,
there's links on that. And I work for Kali Yoga, and that's where I host that mentorship program.
So you can find out through the yoga website.
Yeah.
That's kaliyoga.com.
Kaliyoga.com, tashidawa.com.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thanks so much.
Enjoy.
To talk to you again soon.
Yeah.
Okay.